Hello everybody, thanks a lot that you are going to watch another movie about WinSim, and I think you are all interested in system dynamics. What I'm going to present you in this video is a hands-on example, so I would like to show you a little bit what is possible to do with WinSim. So I guess you all already know how to open the WinSim program. That's where we are right now. And for this little exercise, I would like to show you how you can load already existing models that came with the WinSim program. You have to go to File, you say Open Model, and now I already chose it, so I have to go back to the local disk. Normally it's always saved there under Users, and then you click on Public, and then you see here that it's the WinSim folder. You click on the WinSim folder, then there's another folder called Models. You click on Models, then Guide, and then you have for the WinSim help that is coming with when you are downloading a WinSim from the internet or when you're buying it. You have a lot of models that are already coming with the WinSim help for every chapter. What I'm talking about now is about chapter 3, so I click on chapter 3, and then I have this WFINV file, and I open it, and what we are going to see is exactly the model that we are now going to talk about. So first I just would like to describe a little bit what we are seeing right now. We have here on top, it's written WinSim. What we see is the name of the file that we have loaded right now. So when you are going to save a model under your name of interest, then you will see here the name of interest.mdl. And what we are seeing as well is var, that's for variable inventory. So this is just because now we are most interested in inventory. When you're going to click on workforce, that's our focus right now, and then it will also change to the name workforce up here. So just as a summary, this model describes the dynamic behavior of a manufacturing plant that carries inventory. So what we see is in all models that we are going to create, there are stock, in this case the inventory and workforce, and we have flows, in this case the production and sales and net hire rate. These are always double arrows with double lines. And then we also have the simple arrows. They represent at the tail of the arrow the name of what is causing something else, and at the head of the arrow it's where something is going to be changed. As an example, production here is caused by workforce here, so here's the head of the arrow, and productivity, the tail of the arrow, and here the head of the arrow is causing and changing production. So first of all, when we want to understand a new model, we first want to understand the structure of the model and not yet the dynamic behavior. And to understand the structure of a model, we have some options. One of the options is the analysis tool. So as option to understand the structure of the model, we can use the analysis tool, and one of them is causes tree diagram. That's the button here on the left top side, ABC. When we click on it, we will get some structure for inventory, because inventory is now, it's black, so that means it's active, and it's also here on top. Variable inventory is the one that is active. When we click on it, we will get this causes tree. And what does that mean is inventory here on the right side is influenced by production and sales, and production is influenced by workforce and productivity. So this gives a first overview of what is influencing the inventory stock. Maybe some of you are thinking that it's not really exactly representing what's going on, because here on the left side there would be more, because there are much more influencing variables, but it's only representing the two closest variables in this diagram. So we are now just looking what is influencing inventory. When we want to see what inventory is itself influencing, we have to close this window and we go to the other one, to the uses tree diagram tool. And when we click there, we will see that it opens this window and we see that inventory is influencing inventory correction, and inventory correction is influencing target production. This also would go on and on and on, but it only shows the first two connections distant from the one of interest. Some could now argue that we also just could look at the model itself and try to understand what's going on, but sometimes these trees are really helpful to get a first idea of what's going on, because it's in a much easier presentation method that you get information about the variables of interest. So we are going to close this window. So what we are also interested in is how are the loops going in the system dynamic model. This is one of the key points of why we are going to model this because of the loops. To see what loops are existing in a system dynamics model, we have this button here. We now choose net hire rate because we are interested on the loops that are influencing net hire rate. So we click on this variable, we have it up here also now, net hire rate as variable, and then we click this button here. So we will get all the loops that are going to influence net hire rate. I put that now here. So we have a loop number 1 with a length number 1, and this starts net hire rate here, goes to workforce, and then back. We see this is a very short loop. It's either a positive feedback loop or a negative feedback loop. But we also have a bigger loop, the number 2. There are 6 variables involved, so it also starts at net hire rate, then it goes to workforce, production, inventory correction, target production, target workforce, and then back to net hire rate. This is sometimes extremely helpful to detect the loops that are existing in a model, and we could change now from net hire rate to inventory or productivity or whatever we are interested in, and see if this variable is involved in some kind of loop. So we are going to close this window now. And now what we are very interested in all the system dynamics model is what's really the dynamic behavior of the model. And to examine the dynamic behavior of a model, we will also see that there are different possibilities to see what is the dynamic behavior of the model. So when we want to make examination of the dynamic behavior, we are always running a run of the simulation, and to do that we first have to give our run a name. The name is always written here in this white box that we can create ourselves. The default is always current, but maybe we want to change that, like right now, to base run. And under this name are all the simulation output values will be saved under this name. So one of the easiest thing is to click here on this button. This is the Sim button. This is a very nice tool because it allows to see the whole behavior of the model, and we also will get some bars here where we can change the influence. So we have the graph for inventory here. When we go a little bit closer, we can also see what's happening with production, and we see in the graph how is its behavior over time. We see what's really the workforce, when we are interested maybe in net hire rate. And for all the variables that don't have a graph like this, there is a slider below them. So this means this is a constant over time, and we can now change this constant to 6, and then we can see what really changed. And the change is now in red, and we see that the, oops, now it's gone, maybe it turns back. Yeah, we see it now. We see that the behavior over time is going to change. Also for inventory, the red line is now, when we have time to correct inventory, is from 2 to 6. Then also the inventory is going to change. And sometimes we are also interested to see the graphical output in a bigger view. What we are going to do then is we are stopping this, and then we are turning back to our baseline model and to our baseline situation. And then maybe we are most interested in workforce, and then we want to see the base run just for this workforce, how the graph looks like. And here on the left side there's a button called graph. When we click on graph, then we will get first this window. We don't really have to understand that right now, what you all can change there. We click on OK, and then we will get the graphical output just for workforce, how this is going to change over time. Now maybe we are interested in more than just this base run. As we already checked with the synthesis, we want to see what's going on when we are going to change one variable. We are closing this window here. We are going to change the name from base run to experiment, or whatever we like to choose as a name. And then we maybe are going to change time to correction inventory. This we can do with set, and we change it from 2 to 6. We run the experiment once again. We click yes, and again we click on workforce, we click on graph, again OK, and now we have two different graphs on the same. And we see that when we are going to change the time to correct inventory from 2 to 6, then our graphical output, our behavior from workforce, is going to change to this behavior here. Then we are going to close this window. Now the same we can do for inventory. When you go click on inventory, we change here from experiment to base run. We can click again run a simulation, because all the values are now turned back to the baseline. Yes, and we have loaded base run and experiment as our data sets. This we could control in control panel, and we see here loaded information is experiment and base run. We close that, we go to inventory, we click graph again, OK, and then we see the same graphical output for inventory as we had before for workforce, but as we expected, it's a little bit different behavior for the inventory. We don't go in details now why, what is influencing in which way, and it's more just to show you what is possible to do with WinSim, and how what different ways you can have a look at the output. So we close again this window, because I would like to show you also that we can look the same in a table format. So we have a lot of runs here. All those numbers here represent one run. And at the beginning it's always the same that we also saw in the graph. with the straight line, then it goes, we remember that it went down and then up again, and that's what we see also here with the numbers. I hope you can see that numbers are now increasing a little bit and then decreasing again. And finally, as we had in the graphical output before, I can show that you again maybe. Yes, we see that here we always had the same number, then it starts to change, and finally we have for both experiment and base run, we will again have the same number of 450, and between, maybe here, we see that the two values are very different. That is maybe 29, it has to be here. Those are the exact values represented in those graphs. So we now covered the graphical output and the table output for one single variable. We're going to close those windows now. Now we saw how to display one single variable when we want to display, like in the causes tree, the influencing factors of inventory. There's another possibility to show that. So we click on inventory, and instead of just clicking here on the graph sign icon, we can click on this icon here, and then we see on one hand the graphical output, the dynamic behavior for inventory, but also for production and also for sales. So we have the three important graphs for inventory on one single graphical output. When we are now interested, for example, in workforce, we can click on workforce, click again on this icon, then we will get the graphical output for workforce and for net hire rate on the same output. We could change that also to target production. When we are interested in this one, we click again on this icon, and we see that now we have target production, we have inventory correction, and we have sales. All those two are influencing target production. We will get that on the same graphical output. So this was what I wanted to show you right now. I hope you gained a little bit insight in what is possible with WenSim. What are the tools that you can use to see how a system, a model is behaving, that you can use this here as tree output, that you can use graphical output or causes strip output as graphical output, that you can use the synthesis button to see it as an overview, and how to change single values when you're putting here on set, and then you can change single values. Thanks a lot for your attention, and we hope that you're going to join other videos on the same thing. Thank you.